I see like grief as a river. And first you have a dam and the energy's building up, and then you can say, okay, I'm just going to open this and let it flow as tears flow. And then our system can more easily let go of the thing that we lost, the dream, the person, connection, whatever it was. There's so many transitions that we have in our lives, and all of these have a process of beginning and ending. Welcome to today's Stream of Consciousness episode. This episode is a little bit deeper, and I believe that it's still very, very important for all of us to talk about this topic and have it present in our minds and hearts. The title is The Many Faces of Grief, Mourning More Than Just Death. And I don't know if I would say I'm excited to talk about this topic, but I feel that it's so important and a topic that is often neglected or ignored, a taboo topic in our society. And I would like to give it space and share my perspectives on these different aspects. So let's get started. Loss, grief, and death are all aspects that are present in all of our lives and are topics that, at least in my upbringing and surroundings, haven't been very present. People didn't talk a lot about what it means to lose someone or lose something. Often this grief process was done alone, without other people witnessing. And I also experienced that there was little skill, and I didn't learn any skill in how to deal with grief. And I want to take this opportunity right now to share my thoughts with you, because I believe that living our essence, one aspect of it is also grief and loss. And I believe as long as we still suppress this or leave it out of our lives, then it will be more and more difficult for us to enjoy actually all the beauty of life with all its different shapes and forms. Many faces of grief. For me, grief comes in many forms, and death as well. Death can be losing family member, friends, but there are also many other deaths, so to say, that we can experience in our lives. And that can include the end of a relationship. Doesn't mean that the other person passes away, but it can mean that a relationship just comes to a close. It can mean that we had certain dreams that we just really wanted to experience and follow. And then these dreams die and change form. And I myself really have not been in touch with death in a way that I integrated it in the many first years of my life. And more, I try to see it as part of life, as part of a cycle, and try to honor it and also try, at least, to celebrate it. Doesn't mean that I've mastered this, and yet I try. If we look at, for example, the year has a cycle. The year has spring, summer, autumn, winter. And also, in this transition from autumn to winter, there are also the leaves that die, that fall off. And it's not because that's the end of it all. They then form the compost. They then transform into something else, which can nurture the birth and flourishing of other beings. So if we look at this cycle and this process, it's not the end of something, but the transformation. And I also really like to look at life in this way. There's so many transitions that we have in our lives. Transitioning, for example, from living in one place to another, having one job or another, getting up, having breakfast, and going outdoors. There's so many tiny transitions, and all of these have a process of beginning and ending, and the middle, of course, as well. And I believe that it's important to also see these endings. And I believe that it's important for us to develop skill. Skill in accepting things the way they are. Skill in moving through processes and energies. The skill to move through grief. And the mindset and heart set to see it for what it is, to see the value of grief. I've personally already been in many grief rituals, and that's something which I've never experienced before in other contexts in the society where I grew up. As I mentioned, grief was something that I observed as being done by your own, in your own room. No one sees it. Then you come out again and you're fine. And actually, there are cultures in the world that celebrate grief, that come together in ritual, that come together in ceremony, and collectively experience grief as something sacred, as something beautiful, and as something part of life. And that for me also connects with this important aspect of community. That community can hold us in our process, in our pain, and can hold us in sadness, in grief, and can hold us in the celebration of togetherness. So I would love to see a world where we all move together with grief, where we all see it as part of just another human experience, which tells us that we loved something, we still love something, and that maybe it was a dream, just went. And it's totally okay to be sad about it and to experience grief. And actually, there's a process that happens when people move through grief. And the psychologist Elisabeth Kübler-Ross, she described this process in phases of grief. And learning this concept really supported me in understanding my own experience and my relationship to grief and to loss. The basic idea is that she studied many people in their grief processes where they lost a loved person and saw that there was a pattern. And then she also saw that it's not only when you lose a person, but when you're in any kind of grief loss process. And it works as follows. In the beginning, a person might lose something. And then often the first reaction is denial. Like, no, this can't be true. This is not happening. The second could be anger. Like, this is not fair. This is not allowed. This shouldn't happen. Just like a lot of energy and anger that comes up. And after that, often it's a bargaining. It's like, oh no, please, maybe if we do this and that, maybe something changes. Bargaining. And the next step is often like the energetic low point in the sense that it's called depression. And it's just like experiencing and being in this full sadness and grief, which then only allows and opens the path towards acceptance, accepting the loss, the change that happened. And then the final step, being able to integrate this. And she says that it's very important to move through these different processes, and every stage has something else that supports us moving through it. And if we just stay in stage one in complete denial and resist against moving forward, it's extending this process. It makes it more difficult for us. So if we actually learn the skill how to move through these different phases, then this process won't come with so much suffering, but it can be painful and unpleasant and uncomfortable. And yet it might not have this level of suffering, but can shift in a way more to celebrating grief. Maybe you remember a situation where you lost something. Maybe it was something small. Something small, maybe back in the days you lost a toy, or you had an idea of maybe we want to go there to do our holidays, and then this dream vanished and died, so to say, because something else happened. And maybe in one of these situations you also remember when you then cried. And maybe in the beginning you didn't want to, and then often how I experience it, when I cry afterwards, it feels lighter. So it's basically like a river. I see like grief as a river. And first you have a dam and the energy is building up. And then you can say, okay, I'm just going to open this and let it flow as tears flow. And then our system can more easily let go of the thing that we lost, the dream, the person, connection, whatever it was. So it really supports me in knowing this, that there's this process, and having experienced very often that if I cry, it feels lighter and easier. I'm not saying that it's the idea to end up just in a bowl of tears every day. That's also not what I'm saying. It's about learning the skill to move with this energy and developing this way of seeing grief in a maybe different way. And most beautifully, coming together. And it might be very strange and unfamiliar in the first place and step, but coming together as a community to collectively move through this grief and see it as something sacred. And if you look at, for example, rituals that you know that we have in society, it's funerals, for example, I believe have the basic intention of we come together as a community to then collectively move through grief. And I've experienced some of these rituals which I felt were not very supportive for the process, and others which were really supportive, where people really come together. And it's the sense of holding one another and letting it flow and being witnessed and seen, which really supports this grief process. So the many phases of grief, mourning more than just death, I believe is an important skill to develop. To see these little mini deaths that we have in our day-to-day life. The sun rises and goes down. The leaves fall. We also have our own cycles. Our skin renews itself, changes, so many other things. So seeing these mini deaths as something very natural, developing the skill to move through this, and also moving through this together as a community. So I hope this was inspiring. And if that feels very deep and heavy in you right now, maybe there's some way how you can move this energy. Maybe it's crying. Maybe it's holding yourself. Maybe it's dancing a little bit, swaying. Maybe it's humming and singing. Maybe there's some way that you can find right now to move the energy inside of you, to celebrate what is inside of you. This energy, whatever it is, just seeing it as an energy, as a quality that you can move within yourself. So I hope this episode was inspiring for you, and I'm really looking forward to the next episode of Essence. If you're enjoying this podcast, I invite you to click follow. Your single click can contribute to inspiring more and more people. I also invite you to go to my website and download my free 9 Ways to Live Your Essence guide. All the information you find in the description. So now, let's continue with today's episode.